Okay, so welcome back. In this part in the hexagonal knitting series, I'm going to show you how to go from just using one magic loop to using 3 magic loops that will actually cover all the sides. So this is knitted in the round, and as you can see how it's kind of starting to sandwich down or kind of taco, if you will. And that's because you're starting to create this round because you are knitting in the round. And where you can really see that, and I'll show it to you, is if I pull these down all the way onto around the loop and open it up. And so you can see how it's actually taking on that round shape. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw this buttonhole, or pinhole rather, closed again, so you can really kind of get a look for how it's going to look. So while this is knitted in the round, you're actually going to be knitting a hexagon. So it's going to be 6 sides. And so to better control your tension, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So if you look here, these 5 green stitches, you see how they're pretty evenly spaced. But then when you look at the 5 stitches that were on the end of my magic loop, you see how there's already a little bit of tension issues going on there because there's a big kind of gap. And that gap actually represents the end of one side of your magic loop, because again, with magic loop you're actually putting your stitches on 2 sides. So at this point, what I would recommend to help you with your tension, especially in your corners, is to go ahead and do one of 2 things: to either transfer the 6 sides to 6 individual dpns, and of course you'll need obviously a 7th one to knit every time you exchange out a needle when you go around. So that's one way. Now the other way, because I just am no good with dpns, I'm going to actually show you how to use multiple magic loops. So I'm at the beginning of my next round, and what I'm going to do is I want to put 2 of my sides on this 40-inch circular needle. And so if you kind of look at the hexagon, if you look at the beginning of your round, that first side from the beginning is going to be side 1. And then you're going to have side 2, side 3, side 4, side 5, and side 6. So what I want to do is I want to put sides 1 and sides 6, I want them to actually share this particular DPN. And then side number 2, I'm actually going to transfer onto an individual circular. So this will actually act as a DPN for me, but it's just a really long DPN. Usually your DPNs are like this. So that's kind of what a DPN would look like if you just pretend like the cord is gone. So you've got a point on both sides, but again, for me, my needles always slide off when I'm not using them. So I like to put them, make sure the sides are on the cord. And then for sides 3, 4, and 5, so that's 3 sides, I'm actually going to put onto this 47-inch circular needle. And then of course in between those 3 sides, there's actually going to be a loop, like that. So for example, you'd have side 4 here, side 5 here. It's better to show you like this. Alright, so I've got 2 loops. So this would be side 3, side 4, side 5. And that would mean the sides were separated by a loop. So that's exactly how we're going to do it. Now, there won't be a loop for side number 2, because side number 2 is just going to be on its own individual needle. And of course, between sides 1 and 6, there will be 1 loop. And so the loop is actually what is separating the sides across the needle. So to start, I want to go ahead and begin knitting side number 1 using my 40-inch needle. So this is my 40-inch needle. I do that just went across the table. I do want to put on a stitch marker. I always put on a stitch marker because that helps me to know where the beginning of my round is. You can kind of figure it out based on the needle you're working on. You can look at your needle and say, oh, well, I've only got two sides sharing this needle, so that means I must be towards the end or at the beginning of my round. So that's kind of how you look at it. And of course, with the longer needle that has the three sides on it, again, you can tell which side you're on based on where you are in between your loops on that particular needle. All right, so this calls for you to do, let's see here, I'm going to do, I make one towards, like so, and then I'm going to, let's see here, knit 3 I think, or knit 2, yeah I think it's knit 2, 1, 2, and then knit 4 with the other color, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to knit 2, and then make one, and then now I'm at the end of the repeat section. So as a tip, I recommend that you, regardless of how many stitches you've done, that you always catch your float at the end of every section. If you look for the section in this video series on how I catch floats two-handed method, you'll actually see how to do that. But in this particular video, I'm just actually going to go through it. All right, so at this point, this represents side 1. So I'm actually going to slide this needle here. And now I'm going to pick up my 24-inch needle, because this is for side 2. And then I'm going to start my next section, which is make one. And then knit 2. And then knit 4 in the background color. And then switch back to your foreground color. Hit 1, 2, make one towards, and then the last stitch in this repeat section, I'm going to catch my float. All right, so that is the end of the section. So that is side number 2. And now we're going to get ready to do sides 3, 4, and 5, which again I'm going to share on my 47-inch circular. So again, make one towards, and then in pattern, go ahead and get, I'm going to swing this forward. Okay, so then we're going to knit 2, and then knit 4 in the background color, Now the thing I wanted to say is in the beginning, these will be a little floppy, but you'll get used to that. But very quickly, as you start to knit more and more rounds, that will go away because you're going to have way more stitches on these needles. And that will actually happen. You'll notice that pretty quickly. All right, and then make one towards. And then the last stitch in the section, we're going to catch the float of the blue. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my 47-inch needle pretty far out because I'm going to end up using two loops. But turn your work over and then take the 40-inch needle that you're still working off of, slide them onto the back set of stitches that we originally had on our one and only magic loop. And then again you're going to go ahead and thread most of the cord of the 47-inch. And now what we're going to do is we're going to knit side number 4 towards, and then let's begin again knitting in pattern. We're still in the same round. And knit 2 in the main color, and then knit 4 in the background color. And 4. And then we're going to knit 3 back in the main color. 2, 3, or 1, 2 rather. Make one towards. And then the last stitch, we're going to catch the float. Alright, so that was side number 4. And now we need to knit side number 5. So again, what you want to do is, here's the 47-inch. You're going to pull out some, like so. And then we're going to make another loop. Here's the loop right here. And then again, we're going to knit in pattern. Again, make one towards. And then knit 2. And then back to the background color. I'm going to knit 4 of those. 3 and 4. And then we're going to knit 2 in the main color, make 1, and then knit the last stitch in the repeat section, but again being sure to catch the float since we're at the end of a section. Alright. Okay, so let's kind of see what we have going on here. So here's a loop. So this loop here separates sides 4 and 5. and then same needle. You can kind of see it here. So this right here, it goes like this, and then out. That's your 47-inch needle. And again, it's being shared between three sides. Side number 3, side number 4, side number 5. And as you can see already, it's starting to take on the hexagon, which is exactly what you want. And then you'll start knitting out from each side. All right, so we've done sides 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is side 6, which is the end of your round, or the last section in your round, I should say. And so what we need to do is we need to take the needle that's coming out of side 1 and form the loop with that. It's very important that you do that. So what you're going to do is pull it around, because you want it, once you're finished with the round, you want this needle pointing this way, and then you want this needle coming out of side 1 pointing this way, so you can hold them together. If you don't do that, your needles are going to be pointed, and both will be in the same direction, and you don't want that, because that would screw this whole process up. Alright, so again, we're going to make one towards with the main color. And then we're going to here. Alright, so that was stitch 1, and now we're going to knit 2, again in the main color. And then we're going to knit 4. Two, 3, and 4. And then we're going to knit 2, again back in the main color. And then we're going to make one towards. And then the last stitch, we're going to catch the float. And we are now officially at the end of that round. Alright, I'm going to take my stitch marker off. And now when I pull that big loop I made, see what's happening? My needle is coming into the position it must be in so that I can start knitting side 1 again. So as I mentioned, your 2 needles should be like this. So you've got 2 sides. It's a side 1 and side 6, and they've got a huge loop like so. And you have now put 3 circular needles onto your. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit an entire round using these multiple magic loops to kind of show you the mechanics behind it. Now that we've already put our 3 different needles onto our work. So again, I'm at the beginning of a round. My stitches, or the side that's on the left, is side 1 of my hexagon. This is side 6 of my hexagon, and both of these sides are shared on my 40-inch needle. So again, before you start knitting, you do have to create the loop that separates side 6 from side 1. Of course, don't forget your stitch marker here. Okay, so that's side 1 completed. Now I'm going to go on to side number 2, which is my 24-inch needle, and it's just one side that is on this needle. Okay, so that's side 2. And now I'm going to move on to side 3. Now again, side 3 shares my 47-inch circular needle with sides 4 and 5. So I've moved, or I've slid the stitches onto what will be the left needle. And of course you can follow the loop. So because I did that, now I've got this huge loop here. That's the first of my 2 loops. So all I do is I just adjust it by feeding it through side 4. And of course that made the second loop larger, and I'm going to feed that through side 5, which will feed out what's now my right needle. And so now I'm ready to begin working with that again on side number 3. Okay, so that's side number 3. So now we move on to side 4. Again, we just place side 4 stitches onto what is now the left needle. Again, the same needle, it's the 47-inch needle. And then what you do is you just feed this excess loop through side 5. And of course it made this huge loop that traverses the hexagon wider. And of course that is so that you can form the loop that will separate sides 3 from 4, or side 3 from 4 rather. Okay, so that's side 4. And now we're going to move on to side 5, which is the last side on my 47-inch needle. So all we do is put the stitches onto the left portion of this long circular needle, and then close that loop that's again going across. But the whole purpose for bringing out or extending this loop is so that you can have plenty of loop to make your second loop that will separate sides 4 and 5. Okay, so that's side 5, which has now released my 47-inch needle from my left sides, because now all of the needle, including the loops, are on the right side, because I'm going around the work. And so all I do, or what I like to do, is just adjust my loops to kind of make them equal. And now I'm going to move on to side 6, which is the final side of the hexagon. And of course, I'm now back to my 40-inch needle that again shares side 1 with it. So I'm just putting side 6's stitches up on the needle. And of course, you see how it made the loop really large. So all I'm going to do is just feed that excess loop through or down through side number 1. And then now I can grab that needle that's coming out of side 1 and then bring it around, and now it becomes my working needle. And I just wanted to show you real quick, what's happening is as I'm knitting down to this row, the loop that, as you can see, is to the left of my pinky, because this space is kind of disappearing, and it's causing my, if you notice, my fingers are kind of mushed together, and that's because of that loop is in the way. So what I do is I move my pinky over to the inside of the loop, and that allows me to continue knitting. It makes me think of something like finger hopping. You're finger hopping the loop. And so I'm starting to run out of space again, and now the loop is kind of mashing up against my ring finger. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hop my ring finger into the loop. And now I can continue knitting. Okay. And so now I'm at my stitch marker, which of course means that I'm at the end of my round, and I'm getting ready to start my new round, or the next round in the chart, in the pattern. So that is how you work with multiple circulars to create multiple magic loops. I don't know what the largest size of circular needles are, but you know, if there was one, let's say like a 80-inch circular needle, you could actually probably fit all 6 sides on that. And all you would have is just 5 loops in between, separating each side. So that's kind of the concept behind that. But I obviously don't have a needle that long, or a circular needle that long, so again, it's very easy to do with 3, which I happen to have, that worked out perfectly for this. So that's how you work with multiple magic loops. Again, just something different. You don't have to do that. If you work well with DPNs, double point needles, that achieves the same effect. And of course, at this point, all of this would probably fit on one 24-inch needle. You might need a few more rounds, but that's kind of, again, what the pattern calls for you to do, is to use magic loop up to the point that you can easily put all of the stitches onto a 24-inch needle, and then finish out the hexagon that way. All right, so that's the end of this video. If you want to move on to the next video, which is carrying and catching floats, as well as some tension tips to help you out with regard to your hexagons when you knit in the round. See you there.